everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life podcast. I'm your host, Lori Palau, and welcome to 2022. We are kicking off our sixth year in podcast world. And I have an amazing guest. I was trying to think of who would be a great guest to kick off 2022. And I could not have picked a better guest for you. So you are all in for a treat today. Joining me today is somebody, and Don is going to tell me, try not to fangirl, but there's a few people in this world who I really, truly admire. And I'm extremely humbled to be chatting with. And today's guest is one of them. Joining me is none other than Mel Robbins. And I'm not going to read her full bio for you, but just to paraphrase, she's a leader in the personal development space. And many of you know her work from the 5-Second Rule, which was a multiple national bestseller. It's been translated, I think, into 36 different languages. She's a TED speaker, she's got 500 million downloads of people that follow her. It's ridiculous. It's not even numbers I can compute. But she has a new book out, and I guess it's still considered new. I'm going to ask her, how long is a book considered new? But she has a book that's came out a few months ago, and I had the privilege of getting an advanced copy of it. It's called The High Five Habit. And it really talks about this process that she developed, and she's going to walk us through it, about how this process of pausing can really have an actual scientific effect in behavior change. And it's been transformational for people. And I've been practicing it. And again, my kids are in and out of college, so they don't get it at full force. But when they're at home, I'm trying to, get them to drink the Kool-Aid with me on all of these things. But I want to talk to her all about this and how you can incorporate some of these practices to be the best version of yourself. So without further ado, let me welcome Mel Robbins to the show. Hi, Mel.
Boom. That was one hell of an introduction.
See, and I like to do a live introduction because then people are like, oh, wow, what are they saying about me? So there you go. Now you know.
Well, thank you for saying such nice things about me.
Well,
all hard earned. And yes,
I was going to say it's well deserved and and all true. So obviously I gave our listeners an overview, but tell us a little bit about your story for people that might not kind of know the background, because there's so much to where you are and who you are. Just give some perspective.
Yeah. So at the moment that you're listening to this, I'm 53 and I'm a best-selling author and a motivational speaker. And I also run a digital media company in the personal development space. And that basically means that we create all kinds of content online and lots of audio books and online courses that help people take control of aspects of their life and create new habits that help them literally change who they are, change their experience of life. And I got into this not by intention, but I got into this by screwing up my own life so badly that I got to a point by the time I was 41 that my anxiety was so crushing. I was unemployed and 3 kids under the age of 10. And my husband was an entrepreneur, still is. And we had basically secured a business with our entire life savings and our home. And it was 2008 and the housing crisis hit. And at the age of 41, never on a vision board or in a, design your life process or any kind of goal setting, did I write down what my life looked like when I was 41. I did not write down, I dream of being an alcoholic. I dream of having anxiety. I dream that at the age of 41, I will have liens on my house. I will not be able to pay for groceries. I will be screaming at my husband and wanting to divorce him, and so filled with shame and so sad and full of self-doubt that I can barely get out of bed. That is not what I had planned on doing. And so, and I think that's one takeaway immediately is that, life never goes according to plan. goals and dreams are really important because they put a beacon out in front of you and it gives you something to look out at on the horizon. It helps you raise your gaze from where you are right now. You know, you talk a lot about clutter, you talk a lot about being a hot mess, you talk about all kinds of stuff. And the truth is that goals and dreams are important because they give you clarity about what direction to point your life in. But what's interesting about life is that I believe, and this is takeaway number 2, that when you do the work and when you are a good person, and if you do the work and you're a good person, doesn't mean you're perfect, but if you do the work and you're a good person, eventually you get what you wanted and what's meant for you. But it's never the path that you envisioned it would be. And for me, there's a lot of comfort in knowing this is one of kind of the core principles that I talk about all the time. And that is that, you know, your whole life is if you think about your life as like one long map, right? And there are dots that are all over that map that you've traveled through. And I like to believe that absolutely everything that you face in life is preparing you for something amazing that's coming. Even the shitty stuff, even the things that are heartbreaking and painful and that you don't deserve. That if you can cultivate a mindset that somewhere out on the horizon, there is a dot that you will pass through and you will be able to meet that moment in the future because of something you're learning as you struggle right now. And kind of having that kind of mindset, which I did not have, by the way, 12 years ago. I was in the mindset that a lot of us get into when life is really hard, which is why me? Like, this isn't fair. I didn't ask for this. I thought I was a good person. Like, why? And when you get stuck and in thinking about what's going on and resisting what's going on, you will become paralyzed where you are. And so, you know, my beginning in personal development came at a breakdown where my husband and I were 800 grand in debt, and I was drinking myself into the ground and screaming at him every chance I could get unemployed. And the simplest things were impossible to do. I couldn't make myself exercise. I couldn't put down the alcohol. I was isolating myself. I wouldn't look for a job. I wouldn't be nice to Chris. I couldn't stop snapping at the kids. I was completely emotionally out of control. And I couldn't get out of bed when the alarm rang. And I also believe, here's a third takeaway, that your whole life changes with a decision to change. It really, you know, we want to overcomplicate it. But, you know, the fact is, if you want to go from being a hot mess to feeling like you're back in control, you need to make a decision that you're going to take control. And for me, I didn't even know kind of what to do. I just knew what I shouldn't be doing. And that's all you need to know. I knew I shouldn't hit the snooze button 4 times a morning. I knew I shouldn't be so disorganized that the kids, you know, were missing the bus. I knew I shouldn't snap at Chris. I knew I shouldn't avoid my friends. I knew I shouldn't be blowing off exercise. And sometimes all you need to know is what shouldn't you be doing? And, you know, what changed my life, the decision that changed my life was one morning when the alarm rang, instead of hitting the snooze button like I had done for 6 months in a row, I counted backwards 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just like NASA does to launch a rocket. And counting backwards 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 launched me through my anxiety and through my fear and through the paralysis and into the next chapter of my life. That's how it began.
Which there's so many people that I think are sitting there. And I have a personal friend who is struggling right now. And
Why?
she doesn't listen to my financial struggles, you know, lost her house, some poor financial decisions. There was job loss. There's, you know, overeating, she's overweight, drinking's not an issue, but just like there's a lot of really good in her life too, where I keep trying to remind her, but just really, let's go for a walk. Let's do things. Let's start taking some positive action. And I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying and this downward spiral that you were in. And it's when you're not, I keep thinking, she just feels helpless. Like that's the word that keeps coming up. And I think there's probably a lot of people out there that might be listening and say, I can relate to that feeling of I'm on this downward spiral in X, Y, and Z part of my life. And I just don't know what to do. So it's easier to wait, not easier, but like to wave the white flag and just stay in that is like the devil you know versus the devil you don't, because you don't know what's on the other side. Or maybe I don't, then you start to say, maybe I don't deserve happiness, or maybe I don't deserve this. You start telling yourself these narratives. So you had this epiphany, if you will. I don't know if that's the right word. So you did this and it changed your life. Can you walk us through a little bit about that? And then I just want people that might be feeling going, it can't be that simple. Like I can't be.
It's not easy. It is simple.
Yes.
It is not easy. And the reason why change is not easy is because your brain loves patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you get caught in a pattern where you are hitting the snooze button 5 times a morning and waking up late and stressed and overwhelmed, as much as you may hate that feeling, you are locked in a pattern. And the problem that everybody faces is instead of hating the pattern, you hate yourself. And it is critical that you understand in any area of your life where you are stuck, all that's happening is you have patterns of behavior and patterns of thinking that are keeping you stuck. And what you must do, rule number 1, is you must stop labeling yourself. You must stop saying, I'm a bad person. I'm a loser. I'm a failure. I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. You must stop labeling yourself and you must start labeling the behavior you don't like. Waking up late is making me feel bad. Drinking an entire bottle of wine and waking up hungover makes me feel like a failure. Snapping at my kids is a behavior that makes me feel like I'm not good enough or that I'm failing as a mom. Do you see the difference between saying I'm a failure because I keep snapping at my kids? I'm not good enough because I drank a bottle of wine last night. There I go again. I'm a bad person because I keep hitting the snooze button and I can't get out of bed. When you can separate yourself from the behavior you want to change, you now are free to change the behavior without indicting, sentencing, and locking yourself in a jail of self-criticism. Under the weight of that self-criticism, I am a bad person. I screw everything up. I'm a failure. That weight of self-criticism is the reason why you don't feel inspired to change. This opinion became a belief. And as you repeat it and keep saying it and saying it, see, I didn't pay my bills. I'm a bad person. See, I didn't do this. I'm a bad person. See, I didn't do that. I'm screwing up my life. See. And you keep labeling yourself. It becomes your identity. And then all sorts of stuff kicks in your brain in terms of the filter of your brain. And so step number 1 in changing your life, stop labeling yourself and start identifying and labeling the patterns of behavior and patterns of thinking that make you feel bad. And then go to work and fucking change them.
I love it, because so much of what I do when I talk to people is, talking to people about whether it's their physical clutter, Their
Mhm.
emotional clutter, or what I call calendar clutter, being overscheduled and running
Oh,
all the
I
different
have that.
places. And
I have that.
that's my dominant type of clutter. But we talk about clutter is just the symptom. It's just the symptom of the bigger issue that's going on.
True.
So, and so a lot of the work that I do, because I like to pretend like I'm a psychologist, I, play one on TV, is about understanding that these are behavior changes that we do to take those actionable steps in our life, specifically relating to something simple like we're going to open the mail. So we're not going to have late fees. We're going to pay our bills on time because we're going to start with a little changing our behavior of opening the mail. That's
Well,
just
and
one example.
as you know, opening bills is one of the most confronting things in the world for somebody who feels that they have made bad financial decisions. It is not a little thing. It's everything.
I couldn't agree more. And when I have people that talk to me about their clutter and they say, well, I have a lot of physical clutter and it's specifically paper and mail. And I unpack that with them. I explain to them that really paper clutter is 9 times out of 10 emotional clutter. It stems from guilt or fear or overwhelm. And we procrastinate because we don't know what to do. And so it is so much more emotional than it is. It manifests itself in piles of paper and physical stuff. But at the end of the day, when I walk into somebody's house and I see bags of unopened mail, that's an emotional issue. That is not, I'm a busy mom running a million different directions and I've got toys everywhere and I just need a better system to put them away. That's a different type of a situation that you need to address. And so your strategy is going to be different. So a lot of the work, obviously, that you do is about helping people be the best versions of themselves, which I believe when you feel good about yourself. And I was just having this conversation with a girlfriend of mine yesterday. When I walk into somebody's house and I see chaos and clutter, I don't judge anybody because who am I? But I look at it as what is chaotic in your life that it's manifesting like this. Like this is a symptom of something else crazy going on in your world. Something's out of alignment in your world. And so give us, I guess, maybe walk us through a little bit about I want you to touch on the high five habit. I want you to talk about the people that, yes, they have physical clutter, or yes, they're struggling. They might be listening to the show, but it's really so much deeper. It's about how they feel.
Self-worth.
It's all about, it's all comes back to the self-worth. So just give us some insight into that.
One of the things that I think that we've all been trained to believe is that tough love is love. And if you're hard on yourself, if you are critical of yourself, if you are labeling yourself a failure or unworthy or not good enough, why on earth would you ever feel motivated to change? Like, just think about it from a common sense standpoint. If what's something that you used to love to do when you were little?
Ride bikes.
Okay. So ride bikes. So imagine it's the 8-year-old Lori. Tell me about the bike that you had when you were 8 years old.
It was a yellow bike with a banana seat. And this is the 70s because and it had a little flower basket on the front. And I used to just ride it around my old neighborhood with my friends. And, we would just again, this was the 70s. So we were free ranging all around. And would just ride and have fun and stop and play. And that was, it wasn't a competitive organized thing. It was just me and my friends outside playing, back in the day.
Yeah. Riding around on your banana seat bike, having a ball, present in the moment.
Yep.
Loving life, happy, enjoying yourself, enjoying what you're doing. I'm sure when you woke up, one of the things that you thought about that you'd love to do today is hop on your bike and go find your friends, right?
Sure.
So now imagine that you're riding down the street and there's a group of kids that come up and ride alongside you and start saying, "You're terrible at this. Your bike is ugly. You're too big for that bike. What the hell are you out here doing this anyway? Hey, I heard that you really said this stupid thing at school. You don't deserve to be out here playing. Shouldn't you be working on speaking better?" What happens to you as somebody else is saying that kind of crap to you?
Well, you start to believe it because it's always easier to believe the worst than something good. And if somebody's pointing that out, at least that's for me, is I would start to believe, is that actually true?
Yeah. So the 8-year-old you, in literally 10 seconds flat of being criticized and beaten down and picked apart, you go from feeling happy to feeling sad. You go from being excited and curious and present to withdrawing and to feeling heavy emotionally and self-conscious. And tomorrow morning, when you wake up, the first thing on your mind is not the enthusiasm and the motivation and the inspiration to jump on this bike and go do something that you know you like to do. It's a little bit of fear. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because if you are somebody that struggles with self-criticism, you are doing to yourself exactly what those other kids did in my story to you, Lori, as an 8-year-old on your bike. And every single human being, based on our research, and I'm just going to say every single human being, because I have yet to meet one person who says, actually, that's not true about me, Mel. Every single person is speaking to themselves the way that those other kids who bullied you and who criticized you and who tanked your spirit, everybody speaks to themselves that way. And it's become so much the default, you don't even realize it. And if you're sitting there listening to me and you're like, I'm not sure, do I beat myself? I think I don't know if I beat myself up. You definitely beat yourself up, and I'm going to prove it.
Yeah.
Because every single morning when you're brushing your teeth, you have this moment where you're standing before a mirror. And based on our research, and look, there's millions of people that follow us. Based on our research and our surveys and what we've now heard from 145,000 people in 91 countries, 50% of men and women cannot or will not look at themselves in the mirror. That is a habit of self-rejection and self-hatred. And it begins your day. If you cannot or will not look yourself in the mirror, and if you're somebody who won't and can't open your bills, you're probably somebody who cannot or will not look at yourself in the mirror. And the reason why you cannot or will not look at yourself in the mirror is because you are sad, ashamed, disgusted, regretful, whatever, of where you are or the decisions that you've made in your life. And so you begin your day with a deliberate act of self-criticism and self-hatred by refusing to even acknowledge your own presence. And that's how your day begins every day. And it is not just something that you casually do. It is a locked in habit that is as much a part of your morning as brushing your teeth. This is the core problem that every human being is facing. And if you can look in the mirror, you're like the 91% of us who focus on the things we can't stand, that we need to fix. As you start to apply your makeup, you're not doing it as a creative act, as an additive. You're hiding things, you're fixing things, you're making yourself look better. And dudes do this too. This is not unique to women. This is all human beings. And so again, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you focus on what you don't like, that is a habit of criticizing, rejecting, and hating on yourself. And so I didn't even realize the extent to which I was doing this. I did not realize that the core way that I spoke to myself was one that was critical. And I'm talking about a time in my life, Lori, where I'm 52. I am living the dream. I have reinvented myself over the course of a decade. I have clawed my way out of a financial fucking crater. I am proud of myself for how hard I've worked. Not only hard I've worked to make money, to build a business, to help other people out, but I'm proud of myself because of how much work I've done in therapy and on myself to be a better version of myself. And here I am in April of 2020, and I'm going through a challenging moment. Doesn't even matter what's going on as the backdrop, because everybody can relate to the feeling of waking up in the morning and feeling overwhelmed by your life. That's what I felt in April of 2020. And I walk into the bathroom and yep, I'm the lady that has written the 5-second rule. I've sold millions of books. I've gotten myself not only out of debt, but I've put away tons of money. I am employing a ton of people. I have a lot of respect from people that follow my work. I think I respect myself. Not true. Not true. And it's not true because I was not treating myself with respect. So I'm brushing my teeth this morning and I catch my reflection in the mirror. And my first reaction literally is, ugh, you look like hell. And I focus on the lines on my neck and the dark circles under my eye and the gray hair that's coming in and one boob's hanging lower than the other. And I just start picking myself apart. I start doing what the kids in the story that I told you, the kids that ride up alongside you as you're 8 years old and they start picking apart the way you're riding that bike. I start doing that to myself. And as you start picking apart your appearance, you will feel your mood drop. You will feel your motivation evaporate. You will feel the heaviness kick in. And every single one of us starts our day like this. And so, for whatever reason, I think it was divine intervention because the story's so stupid. Like, I mean, I didn't intentionally high five myself that much. Like I literally, the woman I saw in the mirror looked so sad and so overwhelmed. She looked like she needed a high five. And so I just raised my hand and I high fived her. And that was the beginning of this. And, it wasn't like the first high five. I'm like, wow, I'm going to write a book about this. It wasn't like that. But what happened is I noticed I immediately felt a little energy shift. And I laughed, of course, when I did it because it's so corny. But it was the next morning that the profound nature of this really started to kick in. I probably spotted it because I have spent my life in the last 5 years finding and sharing simple tools that make profound changes in your life. And so I pay attention to when I feel different. And, that second morning I wake up and I feel different. And the first thing I noticed is I'm actually looking forward to getting to the bathroom. I'm thinking about the high five. And as I'm walking to the bathroom, I realize that for the first time in my adult life, that feeling, I'm having this feeling for the first time. And let me explain to you what it is. That feeling when you're about to walk into a cafe and meet somebody that you really like?
It's been a while, but yeah.
Yeah. Like if you could
Sure.
conjure it
Yeah.
up from our COVID
I'm
brains,
just
like what was
kidding.
that feeling
Yes.
like?
Yeah,
What
for
is it? What do you
sure.
feel?
Excitement, lighter in your step, kind of just enthusiasm.
Yeah. I felt that the second morning about the idea of seeing myself. Now, let me unpack how profound this was for me. I had always looked forward to potentially seeing an outfit or a haircut or something like that. But I don't ever recall as an adult looking forward to seeing the human being, Mel Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
And so it strikes me as I round the corner that this is like a moment. And I walk into the bathroom and then I have the second realization. And the second realization I have is that, holy shit, there are two people in the bathroom every morning. There's you and there's the human being in the mirror. And she needs you. She's trying so hard. She's exhausted. She is so beaten down by your criticism. And she needs you to see her and to start cheering for her and to support her. She is trying hard to ride that little bike, and all you're doing is beating her down. And, as I started to realize that, it was this intense spiritual experience, this deep moment of presence that I think people have sometimes when they're meditating, or some of the psychedelic therapeutic modalities bring it out for people, moments in nature where you come around a corner and there's an extraordinary view, kind of these divine moments where you feel deeply reconnected to self. And standing there that second morning in the bathroom, looking at a woman in a mirror that I had been criticizing and ignoring, I raised my hand to her and gave her a high five. And it was truly like a moment of coming home. And I now have a high five in the mirror as part of my morning routine. I added it in April of 2020. I have not missed a morning. I do it right after I brush my teeth. I don't say a thing because all the programming is in your brain and we can unpack it and why it's all exciting. And even Dr. Caroline Leaf, the neuroscientist who discovered neuroplasticity 30 years ago, went bananas when she read The High Five Habit and started to unpack the science around this with me. But what's fascinating is that the change in me is revolutionary. I have fundamentally rewired my brain doing this. Fundamentally. When I look in a mirror, I don't even see my face or my body anymore. I see a human being that I love, that's trying, and that I support. Just like you see your kids. Your kids do things that piss you off. They make mistakes. They, fuck up all the time. They're annoying. And you still love them. And you still view them through this lens of support and unconditional love.
But we don't show that to ourselves. That's the thing.
We don't know how.
Right.
We don't know how. We don't know how.
And so for everyone listening out there, the starting point, if you are feeling like either, and I think there's a lot of people that have good jobs and feel like their life is good, but they still find themselves.
That was me.
Criticizing, I'm sitting there this morning looking at, I need to put cover up here. I need to do this. Oh, I need to get my roots done. All, like you said, all the little picky things. And as opposed to stopping and appreciating taking a moment.
Yeah. And, here's the thing. And, we can unpack the science, because I think the reason why
I was going to say
so powerful is it's not a mantra. It's a physical action and habit that your own brain watches you do because you do it in a mirror. And, between the dopamine drip that your brain gives you when you receive a high five, to the programming and neural association that you already have in your mind, in your subconscious with a high five, to the celebratory energy that is hardwired in your body, there are 4 extraordinary benefits backed by science that you will get no matter who you are, where you are, or what you're facing in your life, if you add a high five in the mirror to your morning routine, no matter how cheesy, stupid, and weird it sounds. So number 1, you get a boost of dopamine, which boosts your mood. Number 2, you literally silence your critic because the programming associated with a high five is already in your brain. So when you raise your hand and go to high five yourself, your prefrontal cortex is paying attention. But as soon as it recognizes that a high five is coming, it grabs the programming from your subconscious. A high five says, I believe in you. I love you. I see you. Keep going. Shake it off. You can face this. I'm with you. A high five has never in the history of high fives meant you're a bad person. You're going to fail. Fuck off. I hope you lose.
Right.
So your brain's programming with a high five shuts up your inner critic and overrides it. That's benefit number 2. Benefit number 3 is your mind is watching. A high five is not just some gesture. A high five demonstrates to your own brain that you treat yourself with kindness, respect, and support. And as your brain every morning sees you taking this action of kindness, support, celebration, and love for self, your brain starts to plow new neural pathways related to your identity. That's number 3. Number 4 is you feel a little jolt of energy that comes from your nervous system, because your nervous system is hardwired for celebration and your nervous system knows exactly what a high five is. And so every single morning in 5 seconds or less, you can give yourself those 4 benefits backed by science that have been proven to work for more than 140,000 people in 91 countries in the last 48 days. That many people have gone through a 5-day challenge online with me. Not a single person in that challenge, not one, has said it hasn't worked.
And here's the thing. It's 5 seconds and it's free. So what have you got to lose?
And why would you want to do it? But hold on a second. Why would you want to do it? If you got bills that you can't pay, if you've got shame and regret, if your life is a hot mess, if you're surrounded by clutter, I guarantee you, you make yourself fucking wrong over it. Imagine the difference if instead of starting your day by ignoring yourself or beating yourself up and trashing yourself about how cluttered the bathroom sink is and how you haven't even gotten to this yet. Imagine if you shut that down and instead you started practicing a new habit of simply raising your hand and sending yourself into the game of your life the way that a good teammate does in sports. Wouldn't that help you open one bill? Wouldn't feeling encouraged help you attack the clutter in your calendar? Wouldn't feeling that you at least treat yourself like you like yourself make it easier for you to draw some boundaries with yourself because you like yourself? Isn't high-fiving yourself an act of forgiveness, an act of compassion? And don't you fucking need it?
Mm-hmm. And I was having a conversation unrelated to clutter. I was chatting with one of my girlfriends about another one of my friends who's going through a hard time in her life. And we were just talking about when you start to take comfort. And I talk about this also with people with clutter, but so whether it's clutter or an unhappy marriage or whatever your, dysfunctional workplace or whatever it is, sometimes we take comfort in this chaos that's in our world, in that specific, fill in the blank. And we just almost feel like it's easier to stay in that, whether we tell ourselves that we don't deserve it, or it's easier to just kind of poo-poo it because then if you do say, I'm going to try it, then the scary part is what happens if it works? What happens if the change then does happen? If your identity is tied to feeling like the hot mess, or your identity is, I'm the one that's always struggling, or I'm this, and you become that negative identity, the thought of change can be scary because it's the devil you don't know versus the devil you do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So, I mean, I'm just saying, what do you say? Like, what do you say to that person?
I would say it a different way, because I think I'm bitchier than you are.
Oh, I don't think so. Don has me clean it up for the show better, but no, I don't think you are at all, but go ahead.
The reason why change is scary is because your brain likes patterns.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love it. I wrote it down when you said it.
I like to take this into the lane of patterns, because I believe one of the things that makes it very difficult for people to change is the problems feel so personal. The issues seem so big. The obstacle in your way seems insurmountable. And so you have this gigantic emotional reaction to simply trying new patterns. And I am trying to simplify it by saying, you're not broken. You have patterns of behavior that are broken. The pattern of behavior of not looking at your bills is a broken pattern.
Mm-hmm.
That pattern makes you feel broken. And so if you don't fix broken patterns by replacing them with new patterns, those old broken patterns will continue to repeat. I don't believe you are a hot mess. I believe you are trapped in a broken pattern that makes you feel like one. And I also don't believe that you're scared of being something else. See, I believe that you deeply yearn to become who you're meant to be. I don't think people fear change at all. I think they are longing for it. And what you don't understand is that these patterns that you have from childhood, or that you've repeated for whatever reason, these patterns are broken, but you're not. And if you can identify patterns of behavior, whether it's you're not paying your bills, or you are ignoring your intuition, and you keep dating and sleeping with people that you know you shouldn't, or whether that pattern is to go silent when somebody seems like they might get disappointed in you. If you can identify those broken patterns that are keeping you trapped, and then you go to work and fix them and replace them with patterns that align with your values, patterns that align with what you want, you will literally set yourself free. You see, I don't think people fear change at all. They long for it, but they don't know how to do it, because we have spent all of our energy saying, I'm broken.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bad person. I'm a failure, instead of talking about the patterns. This pattern of behavior is broken. This pattern of behavior makes me feel like a failure. This pattern of thinking makes me believe I failed. I need to get rid of this broken pattern, and I need to start practicing a new pattern. When you focus on the patterns You are now free to change your life. When you continue to focus on labeling, criticizing, and victimizing yourself, you lock yourself in a cage.
Mm-hmm. Well, you aren't your I mean, you aren't your behavior. And I think a lot of times people identify themselves, and like full snaps for everything that you just said. And I think it's so true. I mean, obviously I'm a big fan of your work, and I think there's so much value, because there's a big theme of shame that I talk about, that I see with people, specifically in the space of clutter and organization. But you could you could apply it to anything, weight, finances, all the things, anything. But in my lane of clutter and organization, there's so much shame that I see people have, that is just, the power is on the stuff, or the power is what they don't have, or the power is not measuring up, or whatever it is, fill in the blank. And trying to get people to see past that, and how reclaim control over their space, of their stuff, of their time, whatever it is. And the exhaustion that I see from people, because they are struggling with calendar clutter, because they are such yes people that they overcommit to everything. And so then they're not putting on their own oxygen mask, or they're yelling at their kids because they're so busy being a million different directions that they have no margin for their kids. And that may or may not have been me 15 years ago. And so you do all of these things, or you buy all of these things, or whatever it is, to get all of this acceptance, or you think you're going to see this big reward at the end, and then you come up empty. And so I love that it just starts primitively with just that acknowledgement, and I think for so many people that might be listening, I guess my question for you, and we're going to be, wrapping up soon, but we have people that are out there. You and I are similar in age. We're both moms of bigs. I've read your stories. We both made mistakes with our kids, and hopefully they're going to, we've said things and done things to our kids. I maybe you could share a story, because I think there's so many parents that I hear that are like, I'm messing up my kids, or I've done this to my kids, or I want to set a better example for my kids. And then I've got other moms that are moms of littles that are like, I can't come up for air for 5 seconds. I would love to high five myself in the mirror if I could get 5 seconds alone.
Bullshit. Here's what I have to say about that.
Yep.
If you want a different life, start making different decisions. Stop bitching about what's not working, and get to work working on it to change it. You are in control of so much more than you are willing to admit. I'm not suggesting that it's easy to change your life. It takes time. It takes discipline. It takes commitment. It doesn't happen overnight. You got to fight for it. But you have a choice. Every morning when you wake up, you get a blank fucking page. You get to decide whether or not you're going to hit the snooze button 5 times, and you're going to wake up a hot mess, and you're going to make all the same decisions that you made today. Or you can decide that today is the day I am changing my fucking life, because I am changing the decisions and the patterns of behavior that I engage in. I am going to get up when the alarm rings. Instead of racing into my day late, I'm going to take a minute and make my bed. Because that one small thing of getting up when the alarm rings, and then taking a minute and making your bed, so that you have one thing done, so that you have one less thing of clutter. And then I'm going to walk into my closet and pull on my exercise clothes, because damn it, I know I'm in a better mood when I take a walk outside. And once these clothes are on, it's one less thing that I need to do. And it's going to remind me. And then I'm going to walk into that mirror, that bathroom, and I am going to brush my teeth. And then I'm going to high five myself, even though I hate what I look like, even though I don't like what I weigh, even though I have so many bills to pay that it's overwhelming. And I focus on the regrets, but I am going to high five myself because I am committed to silencing this shit in my head. I am tired of listening to my mother's voice. I'm tired of listening to my father's voice. If you want to change your life, you are going to have to fight like hand-to-hand combat all day long against the current patterns that you have that are making you miserable. And what are those patterns? Those patterns are criticizing yourself. Those patterns are focusing relentlessly on the things you're doing wrong or the one thing you didn't get to on your to-do list. Those patterns are picking yourself apart. Those patterns are focusing on the things that are in your way and complaining about the excuses. Those patterns are obsessing about the mistakes that you've made in the past. And what do you need to do to break these patterns? Well, by God, number one, you've got to stop labeling yourself, and you've got to start identifying, labeling the behavior that's making you feel broken. Number two, you need to start focusing on all of the amazing things you do right. You got up, you get a high five. You made your bed, you get a high five. You brush your teeth, you get a high five. You slapped some yogurt on that counter and those kids slapped it. You get a high five, man. You let the dog out today. You get a high five. You responded to one text and what? You get a high five. You need to start to focus on everything that you're doing right. Another thing you need to do, you need to stop obsessing about the past and look ahead and figure out what you want the future to look like. Because your future will not be different unless you make it different. And finally, you have got to start celebrating, supporting, and encouraging the woman you see staring back at you every morning in the mirror. Changing your life is one of the most important and challenging and difficult and profound things that you could ever do. And nobody's going to do it for you. You got to make a decision that you deserve to be happy. You can change these patterns of behavior and thinking that make you feel broken. And it begins with how you treat the woman in the mirror.
And there we have it, people. Mic drop right there. It's so, like you said, it is a simple principle, but you have to do it. You just have to commit to doing it.
Well, that's it. Well, like here's your choice. Stay where you are and bitch about it. There's choice one.
Yeah.
Stay where you are and be grateful, accept it. It is what it is. Or identify what you want and fucking do the work to make it happen. You are capable.
I love it. Mel Robbins, I am humbled. Thank you. Thank you. I feel like I've just been in a workshop. I feel like I've just been in a one-on-one workshop with you. But in all honesty, thank you for sharing this wisdom with all of us. Obviously, we'll have links in our show notes. Let everyone know, where can they find you? Where can they get the book? Where can they learn more about your work? Send them all the places.
You know, you can find me online. Just we put up tons of content, free content online. And, you know, here's the other thing I want to say. You're really lucky because you clearly want to change your life, which is why you're listening to this, why you're watching this. And you live in a moment of time where all the answers are out there for free. If you are isolated, disconnected, disempowered, and alone, Google the problem you're facing. Google the pattern of behavior you want to change. I promise you, you will not only get millions of links, you will get thousands of articles written by experts that walk you step by step by step on what to do. You will be able to see videos, many of them on our YouTube channel, that will walk you step by step by step through how to get started addressing the issue. The answers are out there. And you are so lucky because you can find them online for free. And so you have everything that you need to get started. You have the desire to change something. You have answers that will make you realize that you're not alone. There's nearly 8 billion people on the planet, and there's a lot of them that have been through exactly what you're dealing with right now. And there's even more of them that have put information online that will help you get started. And getting started is the hardest and most important part, because when you commit to change, you turn your life in a new direction and you start forward momentum. And even just one step, for me, that one step that turned my life in a new direction when I was facing bankruptcy, drinking myself into the ground, and nearly about to divorce my husband. The one thing that turned my life in an entirely new direction was simply getting out of bed when the alarm rang. That's how you do it. You make a decision to change your life, then you look for the answers, and then you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, push yourself to try it. Mm-hmm. And the action is what will prove to your brain and to those broken patterns that have you trapped right now. The action will prove that you mean business.
It's true. It's science. And here are the tools, people. We have them out there and we're pulling for you. Mel and I are pulling for you. If this is your first time tuning into our show, welcome. You have come at a great time. Welcome. And if you're a longtime listener, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming back, being part of our community. If you know that you can follow us, we're all over social media. Simply Be Organized, this Organized Life podcast Facebook group. Post your comments, questions, and high five yourself. Tag Mel, tag me. I want to hear you. We will end, and I'm going to high five myself and Mel. Thank you. All right. Until next week, guys, I'm Lori Palau. Peace out.